Caelan, how you doing?
Dude, it's even more better than I deserve.
There you go. So as of today's September 1st. It's been 30 days since we last sat at this table, and you came in after a pretty good run, and we had a good conversation, and then now you've been through 30 days of treatment. Want to show you a little clip, of our first day, our first hour we spent together, right? And then kind of want you to reflect back on that and comment how you're doing now and reflect back on how you were really doing at that time. So, Cole, if you could go ahead and put that up, we'll play this for Caelan. Caelan, how you doing? How you holding up?
Better than I deserve is what I've recently been saying.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey says that.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? That's what it is. Better than I deserve, for sure.
So we talked a little bit outside, and you kind of had a rough night last night. So talk to me about your headspace during that moment, what you were going through, what you were feeling, and then I'm going to follow up with asking you how you're doing now and how you're feeling now. So.
All right. Well, I mean, it seems as if I was in maybe a little bit, not to minimize it or anything, but it seems I was in a better headspace than I perceived that I was, at least more coherent than I thought I was. But I mean, one thing that I noticed, if for the people that are watching, just the physical difference,
yeah,
in those 30 days, definitely was a little bit leaner. I've been putting a little bit more fat on my bones, but
it's definitely noticeable.
100%, yeah. And I don't notice that when I'm getting loaded. I don't think I look like hot shit necessarily, but I just don't notice it from that outside perspective. So I appreciate you playing that. But the headspace that I was in, man, I think I've always, for the last couple of years, tried at the very least to maintain a positive headspace. I knew at that point, whatever was going on, it was of my own doing, so I couldn't blame anybody else. And I knew that, I made a commitment that I was gonna be here and do this thing. And I was a couple minutes late, which still kind of messes with me because maybe I jumped the gun. I'm like, oh, I'll be there 30 minutes before, you know what I mean? But I still got here, and that's huge. But yeah, man, like you said, just fresh off of just madness and insanity, really, just drugs and just craziness in a place that I wasn't familiar with, thinking that I knew what I was doing, and just wasn't expecting God to throw that freaking wrench in the plan. But it's turned out, at least in these 30 days, it's turned out to be a really just an amazing experience, really. Yeah, just in such a short time, which is awesome,
So fast forward 30 days. What's your headspace now?
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Definitely in a way better headspace, for sure. A lot more positive, a lot less in my head. Just kind of the fire is reignited to a certain extent. I thought my car had been stolen that day, so that was kind of one thing that was running through my head, like, fuck, dude, how did I even let that happen? But I just found out today that it was it's in an impound lot in Long Beach, which is a good thing. But the fees are piling up, so as early as I can get there, I definitely got to get that taken care of. But all my limbs are attached. My head is on straight, and you hooked me up with a sponsor, and we met yesterday morning. Kind of gave me some just gave me a little rundown, and then gave me some assignments. Read the what is it after the preface? It's the
In the AA book?
yeah, in the big book, yeah.
It's the doctor's opinion.
Well, yeah, before those, it's like the something to the first, second, and third, and fourth edition.
I think they're the forwards to the first, second, and third.
Yeah, the forward. So I read those and read the doctor's opinion, and he just asked me to write down, a couple paragraphs of like what happened before I got here, kind of what we were talking about on the first podcast, and why I even decided to, seek out some assistance with this thing. So
Good.
definitely in a better headspace. Long story long.
So you found your car.
Yeah, I did. Sure did. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know that was a big topic that we talked about on the first podcast, and you and I talked about it a few days ago, and you didn't really know what happened. So that's good news.
No, and just before today, I had just conceded that it's gone, and I was like, I was okay. I had just surrendered that, that possibility of it being somewhere, or where is it at type of thing. I was just like, whatever, dude, it's gone. Like,
Right.
Let's shift focus on more important things. And
Yeah.
then I don't know if that's God or not, if it's just like, okay, it's kind of looking in the right direction. So now let me, bless him with a little bit of certainty or something. But we'll see how that situation pans out. Not really the most important, but definitely important on a practical side. But
Got it.
yeah, man.
So talk to me a little bit about your experience at South Coast Counseling. What's different about South Coast Counseling from past treatment centers you've been to, or what's different in your mindset this time?
Well, yeah, I mean, I primarily, the first time that I got to, this area and started going to treatment, I was not too far down the street at a Detox, and a mutual friend of ours was working there, and then the second and third times that I came out here for treatment, I was living right next door, detoxing right next door at the house that they used to own right there. But I always remembered like the first time that I had detox from the one next door, and then going over to SEC, not even having lived there, and seeing these two particular girls that I have, or ladies that I have in mind. And I just like, I thought SEC was like the next level. I saw these people, they were like, had time on their belt, and they're all talking. They got their group, they're like laughing and happy. And I'm just coming off a deal. I'm like, dude, I want to be like, I want that, whatever that is. Like, I know they're sober, and it seems to be like they're having a freaking good time. So now my personal experience with, being at SEC and just having that type of experience for myself, it's been amazing, man. I mean, great groups, group facilitators. I mean, staff is just, I wouldn't have accepted the opportunity to get treatment at SEC if I didn't already have that notion that you guys like genuinely cared. Because I mean, I've been in treatment centers where, I mean, some of the clients, they're just out for your money or whatever. I'm like, dude, not here. I mean, I'm almost 100% sure, but I mean, I can't necessarily know for a fact. But it's like some things like you could just see it. You guys care. And I mean, again, on like just the practical side, it's like, it's not being funded by some like sort of billionaire necessarily. I mean, there is a money element to it. I mean, just thinking about it, but it's not a malicious or insidious type of vibe that I get off of it at all. I don't even think about that. I just think about it as an opportunity. I mean, and like I said, group facilitators. I mean, the staff that you guys have here is just, I mean, they're phenomenal, and the structure, especially in the last week or two, I would say has been like just spot on for like what I need. We've been going to a meeting like every single day of the week, and just staying in that element and staying in the fold, I guess. And yeah, man, it's been an amazing experience, you know.
Okay. For somebody that's never been to treatment, can you describe what like that first week's like of detox, where you come into treatment, and what your experience was like at SCC, and what helped you, what was hard for you, you know, what that experience is like in that first 5 to 7 days?
Absolutely. I mean, for me particularly, detoxing off of the amphetamines, that was, you know, a little bit more mentally straining, not so much on the physical side. But I know I mean, from being there, the opiate detox to me is just like, and alcohol too. I mean, it's just gnarly. So I like feel fortunate to where it's just like, get some sleep, stop looking out the blinds, dude, and just eat some food and you'll be all right type of thing. But that's not to minimize it. It definitely, from a dopaminergic standpoint, if you will, I mean, coming off of just all these super high dopamine hits, and then getting put in detox, or putting myself in detox rather, and just having to learn to live life without it for those first critical freaking days. It's definitely tough, you know, but it's doable, especially when you're in a monitored environment where people are constantly checking in on you, seeing how you're doing, whatever needs you may have, whether it's, you know, medication that you're bringing in for whatever health situation you got going on. Like me, I brought in a couple bottles of medication that I take for HIV, because I'm HIV positive. And so that was being administered on, you know, on how it's supposed to be. And it was just, you know, it's a breath of fresh air, but it's also, I mean, at least for me, a ton of things are running through my head. Like, what am I doing here? Do I need to be here? Just all the questions and the doubt and all that. But I mean, just to be around people, especially when you have staff that have been through similar experiences, and you just get to talking and just kind of pass the time by just hearing other people's story and sharing your own, you know, it's kind of like, oh, okay, like I'm actually where I don't have to necessarily portray this different individual that I may have portrayed out on the streets, but I can be myself and just allow other people to help me, because I mean, I can't help myself with every single thing in life. And so it's, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being open about being HIV positive and sharing that on a podcast. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, and how that's maybe been a barrier for your sobriety, or, you know, things that go through your mind with that situation? And
yeah, man, I mean, so I found out that I was HIV positive when I was 22 years old, 26 now, and that was before I had ever went to a treatment center to begin with. I mean, I had been using meth, smoking weed, drinking all the time before that, but that particular diagnosis kind of threw things into a higher gear, just in terms of like the fear, the doubt, the depression. Just like, man, is there like, am I ever going to be able to find a woman that'll accept me? And, you know, I don't want to pass it on to her if we choose to have kids. Like, what is that? You know, all these things running through my head. And at least for me, that was kind of the first time that I can really pinpoint that something else other than myself, like a higher power, if you will, kind of shifted my mindset and was like, this isn't necessarily a 100% bad situation. Like, yeah, it's something that needs to be taken care of, you know. It's not something to just be like, just discard and be like, oh, whatever, you know. But it was as if God just like told me with like a voiceless voice, just like something in my heart and my spirit that just told me, it's like, dude, you don't even know, like, this is gonna be utilized to freaking help so many other people, or at least one. And that's like, I mean, if it can reach one, then the job is done, type of thing. And I mean, yeah, it was just a crazy experience. It went from just woe is me type of thing to like gratitude. Really, I don't remember the particular date, but I remember a night where I was probably crying in my bed about to go to sleep or something, and that just hit me. I'm like, oh, like this is going to be an asset rather than a detriment, because I believe my purpose is to utilize my experiences to help others. I mean, just keeping it simple.
Right.
So, I mean, it's been a transition, but now, you know, I'm maybe a little too open with it in certain situations. You know, not everybody needs to know everything about me, but I made the decision years ago that, and especially from being in the treatment world and kind of having that lack of as much fear of sharing that openly in a treatment setting as compared to just a regular, you know, a normal societal setting. But now it's just like, if I feel the need to share it and that might help somebody else out, and then why not? You know, I mean,
It's part of who you are right now. So, you know, and I kind of have that same experience with my sobriety, because I'm involved with a lot of other things besides the sober community, and, you know, share that openly and honestly to anybody who will listen, you know. So, well, thank you for sharing that. Was there so we talk about, you know, so the first 7 days is your detox period, right?
Right,
And then
yeah.
we get to the residential part where you start really digging in with a therapist. You go to groups, you get with your case manager, and you start solving life problems like you're dealing with your car. Can you just tell me about that experience at South Coast Counseling?
let me see. So I didn't necessarily come in with and I don't know if, you know, too many people do, but I didn't have like a pre-written out list of like these are my goals that I'm coming here for. But as soon as I kind of got past that detox phase and just started thinking a little bit more clear-headed, then kind of contemplating on like, okay, what am I doing here? What is my, you know, short-term, long-term goals, that you know, one of my case managers started helping me out with just the, like, okay, this is, you know, at first it was just figuring out what's the schedule, you know, when are the groups, you know, just kind of the basic stuff, because I don't want to be a hindrance to anybody else's recovery. I want to be able to, you know, help myself and also help others by participating. So as early as I was able to, I, you know, hopped in the groups and, you know, participated, and then started, you know, just hammering out kind of a general short-term plan of like what on the practical side I need to get done, but arguably more importantly on the deeper, you know, the soul side. And I've had some pretty good revelations or re-revelations. I don't know if I necessarily knew them before, but suspect I may have. But I think I pinpointed just kind of one of the main things that just keeps on recreating the cycle is, one, just this idea of control. Like, I want to have control over everything, and just when I say I'm done. Like, oh, I'm just going to use this amount and not the whole bag. And then, I mean, it ends up, you know, turned that way. And it's like it's this fear of like letting go and just saying, you know what? I mean, at this point, I still, you know, kind of teeter-tottered and like, am I powerless? Like, that goes against kind of what I've been told growing up, just like it's on you type of thing. But it's starting to click. Maybe not as much on the addiction side, because there's still some things that I need to work on with that, in terms of just, you know, that first step, that, you know, in the 12 steps type of thing. But I can look in other areas of my life and be like, yeah, no, that's like out of my control. I don't really have any control over too many things, if anything. So I'm kind of working on, well, if I can logically see that in those areas, then how can I utilize that, or maybe take a different approach to get to that point with the addiction side. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely making progress. That's for sure. Not only in just like quantitative clean time, but just in terms of like figuring out what's going on, and what am I going to do about it, and how am I going to keep on the right track? Because I mean, that desire is there for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned groups and going to groups every day. For somebody that's never been to treatment before that might be listening to us, can you like kind of describe what a day looks like and what kind of groups you enjoy and what you've gotten out of the groups?
Well, maybe I'm a freak in a certain sense, because I love it. Like, I love the groups and just the discussion. I love talking about that deep stuff, which is talked about. We do trauma groups talking about, if people are willing to share about, certain traumas, because it's not a demand that people share things that maybe they're not necessarily comfortable with sharing in a public setting, and that's perfectly okay and how it should be. But people are willing to share about, certain traumas and how they affected, how that particular trauma or traumas have affected them, then that kind of gets a discussion going, and some other people open up, and it's just kind of, people bond that way. We got a good group at the house right now of people that, just we're working together, as a team to try to just kind of, as somebody I've heard say in a meeting, like, we're just walking each other home type of thing. So yeah, there's that. You got the heavy hitting emotional type of groups like that, and you got like life skills groups, just on the practical side, like how do you figure out, let's get a plan going on, like, oh, what type of job are you thinking about getting, just like stuff like that. And I mean, we've been doing like fitness groups too, which I love. We actually did one today. We're like running some football routes out in a little field not too far from here. But so it's kind of the group setting. I mean, it starts in the morning.
Shout out to my football guys that are coming in doing the groups, Coach Cap and Coach Steele. They have you guys out there running routes on the.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know whose names I could. Yeah, I didn't want to disclose anybody's name, but I mean, yeah, Cap, he's a stud for sure, and he gets us sweating out there for sure. And that's, I mean, I love it, just there's not one second when I'm doing like that group particular where I'm like even thinking about like getting loaded, doing drugs, drinking, anything like that. We're just having fun, and I think that's so critical for people in sobriety in general. But I mean, I can only really speak for myself, just being a kind of high energy person. Like, I need to be outside. I need to be doing stuff, So they got those types of groups as well, kind of hitting all the different areas, and then have therapy sessions in between groups for different clients. And
so let's talk about that a little bit, because you mentioned trauma, and what we've realized is trauma is definitely a barrier for not dealing with trauma is a barrier for a lot of people that have problems with addiction and alcoholism. You mind sharing a little bit about some things that you've dealt with in that area, maybe in general, or if you want to be more specific, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to touch back on the HIV topic, I think that was a traumatic experience for me, because, I mean, I had this plan of like who I was gonna be when I was older, and I don't know if anybody has ever had like that specific part in their plan where they find that out and have to learn how to navigate life with that. So that was definitely a traumatic kind of an identity shattering piece, if you will. But that's something that, I've worked through just on a personal side with God, and I've spoken about with various therapists that I've had as well. So and that's definitely helped. Just just getting it out, saying it to somebody else, and also trusting the therapist that you guys have here, to keep that information with them, but to also be understanding and just be there to listen. So it's definitely a breath of fresh air, just getting it out, and then, then they provide some possible tools to get through that. And yeah, I mean, that would be one trauma that immediately pops up if I think about trauma. But one that has been interesting me for the last couple of years, and one of my previous therapists that brought this up for me, is just when my dad left for Iraq. My dad's a retired Army, so
Yeah, you mentioned that on the last podcast. Yeah.
I guess so. Like that's one particular instance that I kind of think about, like where maybe a lot of this deeper stuff started, is just like my mom telling me that story about how I was the only one out of 4 kids that just could not stop crying when dad left, and having this vivid memory of him by the door in his uniform, and then after that things just kind of going blank. It's when I look back now, I'm like, maybe there's some my brain just shut off. It was like, oh, to have memory further than this is just going to be more pain, more trauma. And but I don't really know what particular headspace I was in back then, but it definitely wasn't a good one. So that's something that I've taken a look at, and I'm not sure if it needs any deeper look on it, but I'm definitely willing to take that dive into that particular part of my life. But I mean, as it relates to drugs specifically, I mean, it seems like I always have this line in the sand, but as soon as the funds to get the drugs, the substance, the whatever, the dopamine hit, as soon as that starts to dwindle and the anxiety kind of turns up, and then it's like that obsession of where am I going to get this next dopamine hit? How am I going to get it? What do I have to do to get it? It's like over the years, it seems like that line in the sand has just moved forward, and things that I said I never was going to do, I ended up doing. People that I said I was never going to hurt, I ended up hurting. And particularly with this last time before I came in here, I was just setting bridges with my family, just setting those bridges ablaze, man. My older brother, my older sister. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how a parent, on that side, having a kid that's just like killing themselves slowly or quickly, how that must feel, and just how powerless they must feel of just like, we're trying, I mean, my parents found, this place years ago, and luckily I had the balls to actually commit to going. But I mean, I would have never done that by myself, so yeah, I mean, just the trauma that comes from doing things that I never thought I would do, and it just kind of that makes kind of gets me into a state of doubting whether I'm a good person, about like, who am I if I'm doing all of these things. And it's kind of a crazy space to be in. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely those are the ones that kind of come to mind, I guess.
So you've been to treatment several times.
Several,
right?
Correct, yeah.
And so you've done well in treatment before. We've talked about that. And now here we are again, right? And you're 26, that's correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so you're 26, and just kind of want to ask you, what are your plans to, after kind of reflecting on your past experiences and you doing well in treatment, and now you're kind of getting to the point where you're going to go to an outpatient program after this with us for another 30 days. Kind of what's going to be different this time? What have you identified that you did wrong last time? What are you going to do to kind of maintain long-term sobriety?
Well, I mean, the little devil in me is like, I'm just maybe not the devil in me, but it's like really the problem that I've identified. So like you said, I do well in treatment. I think that maybe comes from childhood, growing up on military bases, or just liking the structure and just kind of the topics that we speak about in treatment, and just having that guidance. But it's really, it's that outside of treatment, just having to deal with all of these different things without that external stimulus from whatever it is that my fancy is at the time, as far as like drugs or alcohol are concerned. But really what helps me out, and that I've identified, is just what is going to be probably the most sure way for me to stay sober. I mean, one, I know that, getting a sponsor, working the steps are going to be beneficial at the very least, if not absolutely monumental, and the foundation. But also, I mean, the outside meetings that we've been going to, I mean, that's a part of the plan, coming back to alumni on Wednesdays and just sharing my progress, kind of like we're doing right here. But just staying plugged in with the community. And also what I really didn't do previous times was continue to, one, stay in contact with the people that at least I maybe needed to stay in contact with, that I met in treatment. And two, having fun, sober fun with that group, that sober and understands, kind of the pitfalls and the how the enemy of addiction, just kind of how it operates, and what it's looking for in terms of like a way to slip in. And just like playing sports and watching sports and going to the skate park, just like recording a podcast or stuff like that, and just doing those types of things to just rewire my brain to have that belief, that internal belief. It's like, I don't need anything externally to feel good internally. I think it's all there, but I mean, just sourcing that type, the recovery community, and just, I guess, doing what the Romans do in that sense, is something I never fully tapped into. I mean, I like going to meetings. I'm perfectly fine talking to folks, but I mean, I shared it at after the panel that we just had with two folks that were sharing. I was talking about afterwards, it just like, I can go to the meeting and listen and gain some value out of the meeting, but when people are like, all right, we're all gonna go to the IHOP or Denny's afterwards, I'm like, oh no, I do not want to do things like that. That like, for some reason, is where like the anxiety heightens up. But yeah, it's just things like that. That's kind of just staying plugged in. Great. I mean, to put it basic terms,
Yeah.
Staying plugged in.
Yeah. All right, Caelan. Well, we appreciate you coming back on.
That's it.
We're gonna wrap this up. That's it. You got anything else you want to share?
I mean, do we got like 3 more hours, or I mean, we could keep on going.
We got as much time as you want. So
no, I really appreciate you having me back on, and I hope that whatever I shared in this particular episode of the journey has helped or reached, one individual, and hopefully, you get some people at least considering. Maybe that sounds like a place that can help me out. You know what I mean?
Well, I can end with this, and we do. You and I are both believers and work the 12 steps, and that 12th step is carrying the message to other people and helping other people, and that's the one thing that most people with long-term sobriety that have been to the places that you and I have been have in common is, they really commit to carrying the message and helping other people and using our experiences, whether they're the good, the bad, the ugly, to help other people and let people know it's going to be okay. And hopefully you get to help a lot of people, and you're a young man and have the world in front of you. So I appreciate you having the courage to come on and share everything that you've shared today, and look forward to sitting down and talking to you a lot more in private, but look forward to sitting down with you in 6 months and having this conversation again.
Awesome. Sounds good. Part 3.